Still tuned in to News and Views. Myself, Salalo Makwidi, here 5 minutes before we wrap up the show. And we're going to be switching gears now to another element of the conversation around immigration here in South Africa. It looks like it is no longer just a domestic issue. It is becoming a regional one. This as the government of South Africa is also ramping up border enforcement, workplace inspections and deportations. Neighboring countries are increasingly raising concerns about how their citizens are being treated. The latest one comes from Lesotho, where the Migrant Workers Association of Lesotho has appealed to the international community, accusing both South African and Lesotho authorities of failing migrant workers. The organization says Basotho are being unfairly turned away at border posts, declared undesirable without adequate explanation, and left stranded by bureaucratic delays and inconsistent immigration decisions. Lesotho's concerns are particularly significant because, as I mentioned, there's a unique relationship between South Africa and Lesotho. Entire communities in Lesotho depend on South Africa for employment, and there's thousands and thousands of Basotho that are crossing the border every day to work in mining, to work in agriculture, to work in domestic work, construction, and industries, and their families also. That are just a border away from each other, and livelihoods on both sides of the border that are deeply, deeply interconnected. The Border Management Authority has defended its tougher enforcement, arguing it is simply applying immigration laws equally and protecting South Africa's borders. But migrant groups insist that lawful migrants are increasingly being caught up in the crackdown. So, where's the line? Where's the line between legitimate border security and the protection of human dignity? And we're going to be getting more insight on the realities that Basotho are facing on the border post. We'll be speaking to Lerato Nelson Nkhetše, Executive Director of the Migrant Workers Association of Lesotho. Lerato, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views. I really appreciate you giving us your time. Lerato, are you there?
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
So welcome.
I want to jump right into it. Can you just give us insight or put more insight on some of those challenges that you guys have outlined that are currently affecting Basotho who work in South Africa or who regularly have to, be in between these two countries, since there's this quote unquote crackdown that the Border Management Authority of South Africa is enforcing?
Thank you so much. Let me greet the listeners across Africa and the whole world. This is Lerato Nkhetše, Executive Director, Migrant Workers Association of Lesotho. Yeah, we are dealing with a number of issues, especially migration on the side of Basotho. As we know, Lesotho is surrounded by South Africa 100%. So, as we have our migrants crossing to South Africa, there's multiple of issues that we think our government, of course, and the government of Lesotho and South Africa, they have to sit and work on those. We have seen a lot of Basotho being denied entry into South African border posts, where you will see they will only be told that are not supposed to enter. And when you find out or you want what is it that it mean, you cannot really get the news of the matter itself, of which we believe is the responsibilities of the authorities to tell if somebody has been denied entry. We also have concern regarding the issue of Basotho being declared undesirable, because that undesirable itself, it says they cannot go anywhere in the world. As we know, we are surrounded by South Africa. So that itself, even if we are going to Eswatini, we are going to Botswana, or we are going to China, we have to pass through South Africa. That is another component that we are saying. That itself, it has to be looked into, even if it's the law of South Africa, but we also know there are also national and the global protocols that is governing the landlocked countries. So that it denies the right of those Basotho, because they might not want to go to South Africa at that moment. They may want to go somewhere abroad, and that itself.
Mm. Mm. Mr. Nkhetše, are you still there? All right. We seem to have lost Mr. Nkhetše there. While he's been giving us some of the challenges that Basotho, especially migrant workers, are experiencing in South Africa's borders. And yeah, they've come out quite strongly, even using phrases such as unfair treatment. And while we're working on getting him back on air, I want him maybe to expand a bit on that. Are there, some specific examples that they can give where it looks and feels like Basotho are being victimized at our border posts, and also just how dependent are Basotho families on employment in South Africa and also accessing some amenities that are here in South Africa. Mr. Nkhetše, can you hear me now? Mr. Nkhetše, are you there? All right. We seem to be struggling to get hold of Mr. Nkhetše. But then, have you been between Lesotho and South Africa? Have you traversed the two borders? And what was your experience? Whether it's recently or before we saw this crackdown by the South African Border Management Authority. And also for a country like Lesotho, do you think a country that is completely surrounded by South Africa, shouldn't our laws, especially when it comes to border accessibility, be a bit more relaxed? Because as you heard there from Ms. Nkhetše, there's literally nowhere else for Basotho to go. So they can't leave their country without entering South Africa. They can't go anywhere else in the world without entering South Africa in some shape or form. So it raises a very, very important question about how different maybe border control needs to be around South Africa and Lesotho. Mr. Nkhetše, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you know.
Yes, yes. Before we lost you there for a moment, I wanted to ask, just how dependent are Basotho, especially families, just how dependent are they, on South Africa, whether it's with employment or it's with accessing, amenities like shopping or schools or healthcare, and how has this moment almost disturbed, the relationship that they have with South Africa, and also some of the needs that they need to secure in between the two countries?
This has caused a lot of inconvenience for both Basotho and South Africans, because if you've seen how different South Africans have hired Basotho to do a lot of work. You can name transport, most of taxi operators, they are from Lesotho. If you talk of farming, you see, there are a lot of Basotho are working in those farms. If you look at domestic workers, so all those, you see, okay, it has affected a lot of families, both the employer and the employee. That is why we are saying both countries have to look for another bilateral agreement that's going to suit for both countries. So that at least we totally agree that people have to be documented. We should know who is in South Africa and who is in what. But that itself, it should be in a manner that both the countries they are benefiting. In that sense, we will know who is in South Africa, and we will know who is supposed to be there and who is supposed to be there. Then authorities will take those who are not complying with the rules and regulations, they will be taken care of. But as for the law-abiding citizens, really, there must be any piece of legislation that is going to allow these two countries for each citizen to work to attend school, to do anything in a session where all parties, nothing can hinder any progress involved, so that at least we know people will be working freely. They have a special dispensation. People will be working. You can see if we will go to VFS, you will see how many Lesotho have applied for Lesotho special permit event that later was called Lesotho exemption permit. It will tell you that Lesotho, they want to be documented in South Africa. Of course, there's a very small fraction of those who do not want to be documented, and those are the criminals that we can say. Indeed, the laws has to take its course for those. But those who want to be documented, really, we have to document them and allow them to work as documented migrants.
In closing, has there been any kind of engagement with the Lesotho government or the South African government to try and have that meeting point, as you mentioned, that would see things being a bit easier for residents of Lesotho, the citizens of Lesotho, and those of South Africa? Because you mentioned it is two ways. There are South Africans that want to come into Lesotho and do business and vice versa, and also get access to some of the amenities between the two countries.
Pardon
me? Mr. Nkhetše, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes, I was just saying, has there been any kind of communication with the government of Lesotho and the government of South Africa to try and iron out these issues? Are there maybe plans to do so in the near future?
Yeah, we had last week, I think it was on Thursday or Wednesday, we had a meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Lesotho. All we are saying, we understand the pressure, we understand that there is a bilateral agreement between Lesotho and South Africa by a national commission. That has to be effective and it has to work effectively for both countries, because we understand also that there is a lot that has to be done between these two countries, but that itself shouldn't stop Lesotho from going wherever they want. But our clear message is that I think this and desirability, it has to be seen how that can be put aside, because it is putting people at risk and
All right. I think we've lost Mr. Lerato Nelson Nkhetše, the Executive Director of the Migrant Association of Lesotho. But I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. I think we got the gist of that conversation. But yeah, conversation around migration, especially in Southern Africa, it's becoming challenging. And the challenge facing governments today, at least in the SADC region, is finding a way to uphold the rule of law without undermining the regional partnerships shared by the people of SADC. There's deep history, there's human dignity that is play, and there's a long connection, between people of Southern Africa. And I think it would be sad if we reach a point where those connections are being severed all in the name of border control, which is also very important. But I mean, Lesotho and South Africa, what do you expect people from Lesotho to do when you have draconian border management for people that pass through this border each and every day, and there's no other way to leave the country? We've come to the end of today's edition of News and Views. Thank you so much for staying with us for the past 2 hours and 10 minutes. I'll be back with you again tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of the show. Julie Ali follows after this for mid-morning with Julie Ali, and I'll be back with you again tomorrow, as I mentioned. Shap, shap.